Hey, Cougar family. Welcome to Season 1 of the CougsFirst podcast, your one-stop business network, a podcast all about life, business, and the best college in the world, Washington State University. Join us each episode to hear stories from your favorite Cougs, interviewed by yours truly, Kelsey Knutson, class of 2012. We're so glad you're here, and we can't wait to dive into this week's conversation. So grab a cup of coffee, crack open that beer, or pour a glass of wine, and let's kick off another episode of the CougsFirst podcast. Hey, Cougs. Welcome to a podcast sponsored by CougsFirst and hosted by me, Kelsey Knutson, class of 2012. And I'm just so glad that you're here. Here's the thing. I realize you may not know about me. You may not know about CougsFirst because this is our first episode. But you know about WSU and how awesome it is and how special the Cougar family is. And that, my friend, is why you found us. And I'm going to walk you through what the heck we're up to, why we're here, and why we are so excited to bring you this podcast. So first about me, we'll dive into CougsFirst, I promise, but a little bit about me because we're going to be hanging out a lot. I will be hosting the next year's worth of episodes. I'm so honored to be here. And to do that, I feel like we got to get to know each other a bit more. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me and we'll keep this party going. Okay, here we go. So I picked WSU last minute. I remember going out to visit with a friend. We're driving over. I'm driving my truck and I almost run out of gas. That's an embarrassing story for another time. But we get there. It's dark. We're unloading the car. We're at Stevenson. I want to say South. I don't remember which one. My friend's helping us unload. And the person who lives in the dorm gets stuck in the elevator. And, my friend and I were little baby seniors in high school. We don't know what we're doing. And everyone's kind of freaking out. But here's what was super cool and why this story is even in the podcast episode. Everyone was so nice. Keep in mind, it's a Friday night. That's like prime time, fun time for people. People were chipping in to help. They were hanging out until the fire department came. They were talking all of us off the ledge. And ultimately, just the kindness and generosity and the friendliness of these people is what caught my attention. And the next morning, walking around campus, checking out Greek Row and the liveliness of it, having a coffee at Zoe's Cafe, going to Cougar Country and getting a burger sealed the deal for me. And I haven't looked back since. So that's my story. That's how I picked WSU. I was the first in my family to go to university, besides one uncle who married in, who's a very passionate Coug. But ultimately, once I made that decision, it was one of the best ones I've ever made in my life. I am so deeply thankful for that experience, for that weekend, and this amazing community that lives on past your 4 or 5 years of college. So yeah, I'm just glad you're here. And it's fun to walk through that memory and that story. And I'd love to encourage you to think of your story and how you picked this awesome place to go to college and ultimately meet your forever family. So some of my favorite memories from WSU, again, I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm sure you can relate. I remember working at Daily Grind in the summertime and attending summer session and just how cool it was. You would meet people you would never meet otherwise because the town would shrink and you would all kind of huddle together and become friends. I remember going to Hawaii with my family one summer and wearing a WSU hat and someone yelling, "Go Cougs" from across the parking lot. And I just remember people being so casual. Oh gosh, I'm going to date myself. Here we go. Walking around with jeans and North Face zip-ups and flip-flops and sandals and stupid Ugg boots and all that stuff. But there just was something casual and approachable about WSU. And I love that. And that's one of my favorite things being an alumni now, seeing and meeting other awesome alumni is that casualness and warmth and welcoming energy doesn't stop. And that's what's so cool about this family we've built. And we're just getting started, folks. So anyways, like I said, preaching to the choir. So here I am. I'm in college now. I'm going to WSU. I'm in a sorority. I'm out of a sorority. I was working at a coffee shop. A new coffee shop comes into town. Some of you may know Thomas Hammer. I got to be one of the baristas on the OG opening Thomas Hammer crew, which was a once-in-a-lifetime experience to literally open a coffee shop while in college. And spoiler alert, I studied business, entrepreneurship, so it was just such a fun experience. And here's just like the wild cougar connection that just keeps showing up in my life and likely yours too. I'm working at Thomas Hammer. I graduate from WSU. I'm having a total identity crisis of what to do with my life. I have my entrepreneurship degree. I'm kind of working with a startup, but I'm ultimately making a lot of coffee. And I remember making a soy vanilla latte for someone, handing it over to this person. And ultimately, I find out she works at a Seattle office. Hi, didn't know we had a Seattle office for WSU. And long story short, my very first quote unquote big girl career job was with WSU. And I was able to move to Seattle, start my career in economic development there, met some amazing folks who I still keep in touch with to this day. And that is where I first heard about this thing called CougsFirst. At that time, that would have been the second trade show they had done. CougsFirst it's a networking group, it's a community, but it's so much more than that. What it really is, it's a separate entity on its own with the whole premise of supporting a Cougs through life and encouraging success. So if you're a business, supporting other businesses. If you're a business, hiring Cougs. If you're just a graduate and you're looking for different resources or offers, the idea is that you have this whole network to support and choose from. Instead of just buying wine from this winery, go support one of the Coug-grown wineries. And it's just such a special group. And that's why I'm here. I learned about this group 10 years ago, which is wild. And I'm not even a quarter of the way done telling you about my crazy journey through entrepreneurship. But long story short, I'm just thankful to be here. That's a little bit about CougsFirst. And our very first meeting was that fateful time in 2012. And a lot has changed for both of us since then. So I'm excited to share more about that. So I'm working for WSU. I'm in Seattle. And just like any normal 20-something, I decided to completely quit my stable 9-to-5 and go to beauty school. I know this is wild. But yeah, I just always had this thing in my heart. I felt really creative. I wanted to tap into that. I wanted to have my own business. And I walk into beauty school and lo and behold, one of the owners, also a Coug. I remember she told me that and I immediately was like, okay, this is where I have to go. I have to go. The WSU love is strong. That's the school I decided to go to. I ended up building up my clientele in the Seattle area, expanding and opening my own salon after 3 years. I was in the wedding industry, so I would do cut and color in the salon. And then I had contract employees during wedding season. And it was just a wild ride. I was finally living out my entrepreneurial dream. And I just want to pause here real quick. This may not apply to everyone, and that's okay. But I just encourage you to just listen. I want to share just a few quick things I've learned from my experience as a business owner and things that I think just ring true to life in general. So one of them being that leap of faith, jumping in, opening that salon. To me, a lot of that courage came from, well, there's 80% of Coug alum that live in the Seattle-ish area. I bet they will come get their hair done. And a lot of them supported. But ultimately, I learned to follow your dreams and do the thing. And guess what? Now you have this awesome group to lean on, to love, support, encourage, and pour into you because truly they just want you to be successful. Number 2, I learned in starting a business, start simple and then grow from there. I remember the very first day I opened my doors, I completely forgot a trash can. Yeah, that's right. So I'm sweeping up after my very first haircut, my very first victim client, and I'm sweeping and I look around and I realize there's nowhere to put the hair that I just swept up. So I found a box and for the rest of the day, that was my trash can. The lesson being, you figure it out. It's okay if you don't have every detail ironed out. The best thing you can do is go for it. If you want another great example of this, listen to Glenn's episode. He's one of the original members of CougsFirst, and it's really cool to hear the origin story of this group as well. But we'll bring it back to me because that's what today's episode is about. CougsFirst is your one-stop business network. Looking for a new bank or insurance? Think CougsFirst. Buying a new car? Think CougsFirst. Hiring a Coug? Think CougsFirst. Need a mentor? You guessed it. Think CougsFirst. What makes WSU great is Cougs supporting Cougs, and they are in every business. And we'll take your call. Google it at CougsFirst.org. And as always, go Cougs. I want to share another just nugget of experience that I've learned in having multiple businesses now at this point. It's this: whisper directly to your perfect client versus screaming to the masses. And what do I mean with this is, be really intentional with what you say. Really put thought behind it. Really visualize and picture as if you and I are hanging out. Maybe you sell, I don't know, insurance, right? And you're trying to convince me to come work with you, hire you to do insurance for me. Instead of trying to be for everyone, focus in on serving me as your potential client. And also just be confident in attracting those people. Some people may not be for you. I hate to focus so much on CougsFirst, but it's such a special opportunity. You have a network of warm to hot leads solely because we have that common thread here. And that's what makes this group so special. It's that we have that common connection, that story, that love, that affinity for the university, that life-changing time we had at WSU. All of those reasons are why it should be a no-brainer to support each other, not only as business owners, but as consumers, as just human beings. It's the place to be. I promise you. It's a cool group, and all I want you to take away from this is we would love to have you, and you should come hang out and join us. Okay. Back to business stuff, though, because like I said, there's a lot to talk about today. We have so many cool things to tell you, but I really do want you to walk away with some nuggets that are helpful. Putting your business owner hat on. Just because someone is friends with you doesn't mean that they'll buy from you, and that's okay. There are other ways where people can support you. I think of when I had my hair salon. I had a lot of people who were friends who didn't come to me, but they would share my posts. They would tell their friends about me. They would tag me on social media. They would refer other stylists to me to refer work back and forth. There's other ways to get support and encourage people. And ultimately, if someone doesn't want to be your client, don't force them to. Again, lessons learned here, just being transparent and sharing my business wisdom, because that's what I do. And the last little nugget here that I want to leave you with in regards to business is value your relationships more than followers, more than likes, more than comments, more than reshares and retweets. Focus on building strong relationships. And if you do that, you will be successful. And guess what, friend? We are here for it. Any way we can support you, any way we can cheer you on, we are so excited that you're here, that you're joining us. And I know the lineup of guests that we have, my mind is blown personally, but I just know there's going to be something inspiring, supportive, educational, entertaining for all of you. And we're just thankful to have you here. So back to my story a little bit. I have this salon. I summit the mountain. I want to build a salon. I want to hit 6 figures. I do it. I have a team. I'm not fulfilled. I know. It's so anticlimactic. But I get to that point where I'm just like, what the heck? I should be feeling like I'm on cloud 9 and I'm just over it. And if I dig deep and I really think about it at this time, if I step back and really think about my career up to this point, I've always known that I had bigger dreams. Doing quote unquote hair was a way to connect with people and serve people, but it was never the be all end all for me. And so after 3 lovely years of having my own business, I decided to close my salon to pursue, you guessed it, podcasting and business coaching. And now leading a networking group, and now public speaking and training. So the short of it is I wear a lot of hats. And I love what I do. It's an awesome space. I get to help all kinds of people really just pursue their dreams and live a fulfilling life along the way. Because if your goal, if your North Star is a dollar amount or a certain number of followers, you will never be fulfilled. But if you lean into your core values, what fires you up, what makes you most excited, and you run in that direction, you will always feel fulfilled. And that's the magic. That's the key. And what's crazy is I get to come alongside Ougsfirst and facilitate conversations that help you do that in your life. And that is I'm still pinching myself over this, if you can't tell. So let's dissect the couple things that I do. This is the only time you and I are hanging out. So I'm going to take the time to tell you more about me. First of all, let's talk about this podcast thing. So this whole podcast came to be because I have my own podcast called When I Grow Up Pod. It's on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, all of the things. And somehow I convinced Tony Poston, who is now the executive director of CougsFirst, previous CEO founder of College Hill Custom Threads. Tony was on episode 34 of the podcast. If you haven't listened, shameless plug, you should definitely go check out that episode. It's a fun one, but Tony and I have known each other for years. Here's the thing. I love having a podcast. I get to ask all the nosy questions. I get to just be like a vessel for people to plug in and learn and grow and evolve. And it's such a cool, special space. And I myself love to listen to them. Every day I would go on a walk for 45 minutes. I'm doing a thing. We can talk about that another time. But long story short, on my walk, I always listen to a podcast, and I always love something just bite-sized, digestible. And to me, a successful podcast is one where I can hang up and implement. Because all the inspiration in the world is great, fine, but I got to be able to go do something with it. I want steps. I want how-tos. I want action items. And I don't want to listen to you for 3 to 5 hours talk. And I will lose my focus. So that's about the podcast. Tony approached me about this idea of doing a CougsFirst one. And we really worked together to fine-tune what it would be. What's our goal? What does it mean? And ultimately, it's this. It's this, but some company. Every episode moving forward will be myself interviewing awesome guests like Tony, of course, but Glenn O, who was one of the board members of CougsFirst from the get-go. We're going to have conversations with Jack Thompson, President Kirk Schultz, all kinds of amazing people lined up. I can't even begin to tell you how awesome it's going to be. And friend, I'm nosy. I'm going to ask the questions that we all want the answers to. And my hope is, and our hope is, that you leave feeling inspired and proud of this community and excited, and maybe we laugh a little bit. I hope we don't cry, but maybe we cry a little bit. But I think this is such a cool way to connect. I think this is so special, and I am just deeply honored that little podcast interview many months ago has turned into this whole brand new podcast that we are launching, and we are all so excited. So this is why we talked about business earlier, and I told you it would relate. I'm also a business coach, and it's funny because that WSU job that we were talking about was kind of in business consulting, and my life has just come full circle. I now get to help small businesses with all kinds of things, from how to strategize their social media to how to prep for a new hire to how to juggle multiple businesses or launch a new thing, whether they're launching a podcast or launching a course. I help in all those spaces, and I definitely tap into my personal experience having done the thing as a business owner, but I also lean on my degree and my time at WSU and my time working for startups and my time doing the business plan competition. So I love that I get to speak to all those different areas and help people. It's really special. I love to wear multiple hats, if you can't tell. I also started a networking group with 2 of my friends. Shout out Michelle and Taryn. It's called Empower PNW. It's a women business networking group, and we're super excited. We're located in the South Seattle area, Puyallup, Washington specifically. We meet monthly. It's all just about connection and supporting each other, and that has turned into just an amazing community that we're building and super excited about. Michelle and Taryn are also Cougs, and we're just so thankful for this crazy journey that we're on. And then the last thing I do that is kind of new is I love to talk, obviously. But I love to facilitate and teach and train and capture a room and see ahas go off and watch people evolve and grow and challenge themselves in the moment. And that's something I'm super, super excited about expanding more into. If you've been lucky enough to come to the CougsFirst trade show, either in Spokane or Bellevue, there was a little stage segment, and I somehow was asked to host it. Give me a mic, that's dangerous. But we also recorded it on YouTube and Facebook too. So if you missed it live, don't worry, it lives on the internet. I'm sure you'll see my face around. What makes WSU great? Cougs support Cougs, and they are in every business and want to give you a good deal. Looking for a new bank or insurance? Think CougsFirst. Selling your house? Think CougsFirst. Need to plan a party? pick a venue, or set your menu. Think CougsFirst. Did we make our point? Start to Google it at CougsFirst.org. And as always, go Cougs! But long story short, I'm just thankful to be here, thankful to share all these stories. And now you know a little bit more about me, what I do, why I'm here, my heart behind all of this. And just know I'm always a support system too. One thing about CougsFirst that's super cool is there's a whole directory of all the different industries we're in. And as Glenn O says, and other people have said, there's no industry Cougs don't touch. And that's true. So you go to CougsFirst.org and you click on the business directory and you can see all those different industries. And if you go under business services, I am there and I am your cheerleader. If you have questions, if you need business support, if you want to run an idea, if you want to talk about some social media strategy, if you want to talk about leadership or any of that stuff, please reach out. I'm open. I'm here. I'm happy to support, and especially this community because it's special to me. So let's talk more about CougsFirst. How did this all happen? How did this came to be? Why the heck am I here? So that trade show that I heard about 10 years ago, it kept running and going. And quite honestly, as I was in the hair world, I was in my own little bubble where I lost touch with WSU and all of the different moving parts and pieces. And then when I was starting to make the shift back into coaching, Tony had kind of always been in the back of my mind. I asked him to be on the show, and that was it. He was really involved with CougsFirst. I've always been a part of, or I've always supported their mission. I've always thought what they were doing was really special. And I'm going to use my words to explain to you how I describe CougsFirst, because I think that at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who just don't know what it is or don't know why they should be a part of it or how or any of that. So let me tell you from my vantage point. CougsFirst, on the surface, what it's most known for is two things. The trade show, which happens every year in Bellevue and Spokane. Obviously, when COVID times, they moved to more virtual support. But it's also that business directory, like I was telling you. You can have your business on there. They will have links on there. But they also have social media platforms. They do educational content, networking events, all kinds of things to ultimately help support your business and get your message out there. And then if you don't have a business, which if you don't, you are so welcome and we are very happy that you're here. But if that's you, shop these people, support them, share their stuff, come to the fun stuff, come hang out when we do different, pop-up events and virtual meetings and stuff. Come hang out with us. It's a cool group. It's unique. It's ever evolving. And Tony, my friend, has been in the executive director role for 3 months at the time of this recording, and he's just getting the party started, man. He's got lots of ideas. They're open to expanding in a lot of ways, and it's just a unique place. There's no other university who has something quite like this. And I think that speaks a lot to our alumni base. That speaks a lot to who we are as Cougs. And it's just really freaking cool to be a part of. So that's a bit more about CougsFirst. If you want to find out more, start with the website. Go to CougsFirst.org. They're also on LinkedIn and Instagram for sure. I'm pretty sure Twitter. I'm not a tweeter, but anywhere on the social medias, go check them out. They're a great group, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. And in doing that, Tony came on the podcast, When I Grow Up Pod, and he asked some good questions about what it was like to host a podcast. It's not for everyone. Hosting's it's a specific muscle. And for me, I love it because I love to spend time with people. I love to hear their stories. I love to keep them focused when they get off topic. But the idea of having a podcast directed towards other Cougs, specifically who are building empires and cool businesses, I'm here for it. And thus, Cheers Cougs was born. We have some awesome things in the works. We have some really amazing sponsors that we are so thankful to have help support us and help support their businesses as well. And ultimately, we're just excited about this thing that we're doing. So thank you for being here. Now I'm going to wrap it up, how we're going to wrap up every episode, which is 3 rapid fire questions that I came up with on a whim. So we're rolling with it. The first question that I'm going to ask everyone, and right now asking myself, Okay, so the first question I'm going to ask is this. If we're in Pullman and you and I are hanging out and we're having a drink, where are we? And if you know me, you know the answer is Black Cypress. Fun fact, that is where my boyfriend asked me to be his girlfriend. It was my bonus time at WSU when I was graduated and still barista-ing. And we went on a date at Black Cypress. And I cannot believe to say this out loud. That was almost 10 years ago. So it's a special place in my heart. Number 2, what football game are you most excited to see? For me, controversial, I have to say Apple Cup. I feel like I am on a mission. Me, the fan that has nothing to do with football or any physical ability to help this happen. But I am ready for the Cougs to win. I just feel like it's time. That game is always so wild. Our season could be going so great or so terribly, but Apple Cup feels like a coin flip. You don't know what's going to happen until you're there watching it. So I'm excited to see that in action. And number 3, what one word describes your time in Pullman? For me, revolutionary. I did everything from the Greek life to working at a coffee shop, dancing with a dance team, working at a startup, all kinds of cool things. I feel so lucky I got to touch a lot of different parts of the university. And I feel like it's just getting started now. It's cool to have that. So those are my answers. Those are questions I'm going to be asking every guest, and I'm excited to share some answers we've got. It's fun, friends. Don't worry. And now I need to spin it to you. Where do we go from here? We need your help. We need you, which is why we're here. Could you do yourself a huge favor, and could you share this podcast with your Coug community, your friends, your family, people who are just as passionate about WSU as you are? That would mean the world. And then number 2, as you're doing that, if you could write us a review on Apple or now Spotify, you can do that too. That would just help us a ton. We are so pumped to be doing this. We're excited, but we want to get the message out. We want to get these stories out. Like I said, this is the only solo episode. The rest will be these amazing guests. But now you have that solid foundation. You know more about me and who I am. And I'm just so thankful that you spent the time with me today. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, concerns, ideas, we have an email for this. Send an email to podcast@CougsFirst.org. Make sure to follow us along at CougsFirst on all the socials. And like I said, for the millionth time, go check out CougsFirst.org for all the details about what CougsFirst is. And we're just so pumped to be here. So thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for loving WSU and the community as much as we do. And as always, gotta end it with a solid cheers, Cougs. We'll catch you next time. And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging out with us on the CougsFirst podcast. We hope you leave feeling inspired, entertained, and encouraged to support yet another awesome Cougar-owned business. If you like what you heard, do us a huge favor and leave a review for the CougsFirst podcast on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on the latest episodes, and please share this podcast with your fellow Cougs. And remember to thank CougsFirst for all of your products and services. But until the next episode, let's end it with a good old-fashioned Go Cougs!